The slave breaker, Edward Covey. Welcome back to Black American Horror Stories, where we uncover the real documented atrocities that Black Americans endured under slavery. Stories that still echo through history today. We're examining one of the most feared men of the 19th century. Edward Covey, a Maryland farmer whose reputation as a slave breaker made him a name whispered in fear across plantations. His cruelty became known to the world because of a young enslaved man who survived him, Frederick Douglass, who would go on to become one of America's greatest abolitionists. This is the story of Edward Covey, and it is not for the faint of heart. Edward Covey lived on the eastern shore of Maryland in the 1830s. Although he was not wealthy, he carved out a role that made him infamous. Masters sent enslaved men and women to him to be broken, meaning forced into total obedience through violence, psychological torture, and relentless labor. Douglass described Covey as a man of singularly evil reputation, someone who specialized in destroying human beings' sense of self. Covey wasn't just physically violent, he was manipulative, sneaky, and obsessed with control. He ran a small farm, but his true business was breaking people. Arrival of Frederick Douglass. In 1833, a 16-year-old Frederick Douglass was sent to Covey after resisting the man who previously enslaved him. Douglass still had traces of independence, pride, and self-worth, traits that enslavers feared. Covey believed he could fix that. Douglass later wrote that Covey was a man who would stop at nothing, no cruelty, no deception, no torture to tame a slave. Covey worked enslaved people from before sunrise until long after sunset. He hid behind trees and barns, ambushing them if he thought they slowed down. He beat them unpredictably, not as punishment but as a system designed to destroy hope. The cruelty of Edward Covey. Covey's methods were brutal and constant. He whipped enslaved people for the smallest perceived offense. A slow movement, of arrest, a simple mistake. Douglass received beatings so severe that his back was cut to pieces, bleeding through his shirts for days. But Covey's cruelty wasn't only physical. He practiced psychological warfare. He lied constantly. He spied on enslaved people to keep them fearful. He created an environment where nobody ever felt safe, not even for a second. Douglass wrote that Covey succeeded in breaking me, body, soul, and spirit. For 6 months, Douglass lived in a state of exhaustion, terror, and despair. Covey intentionally exhausted the enslaved people he controlled. He forced them to work in scorching summer heat and freezing rain. He denied rest. He denied mercy. His goal was just obedience. Covey also used religion as a weapon. He portrayed himself as a devout Christian and claimed that abusing enslaved people was his God-given duty. For Douglass, this made Covey even more dangerous, a man who believed his violence was righteous. The fight that changed history. Everything changed one hot August day in 1833. After a brutal beating that left Douglass physically broken, Douglass decided he could endure no more. When Covey returned to whip him again, Douglass fought back. For nearly 2 hours, the two struggled. Covey tried to tie Douglass, choke him, and beat him with a stick, but Douglass refused to submit. In the end, Covey couldn't break him. This fight was a turning point not only for Douglass, but for American history. Douglass later wrote, "This battle with Mr. Covey rekindled the few expiring embers of freedom." Covey never reported the fight because his entire reputation relied on the idea that he could break any enslaved person. If word got out that a teenager fought him off, the illusion would crumble. So Covey stayed silent, and Douglass walked away with his spirit restored. Aftermath and legacy. Edward Covey continued his work as a slave breaker for many years, and many other enslaved people suffered under him, but he never escaped the shadow of Frederick Douglass's account. Because of Douglass, the world learned exactly who Covey was. His legacy is not one of a farmer or a businessman, but a man who tried to crush human souls and failed. Douglass went on to become a writer, abolitionist, diplomat, and one of the most powerful voices in American history. Covey became a symbol of the cruelty and slavery and of the resilience of those who survived it. Edward Covey's story matters because it reveals the deliberate system of dehumanization that enslaved people face every day, but it also shows something deeper. Even in the darkest horror, there were moments of resistance, courage, and defiance. If this episode taught you something or made you think, please like the video and subscribe to Black American Horror Stories. Our mission is to uncover the stories Americans tried to bury and to honor the people who lived them. Comment below if there's a story you want us to cover next.